artist. This is Miss Brookshire. I am going to talk to you today about creating a colorful village. You're going to follow along with a video from another art teacher named Cassie Stevens, and she's going to walk you through step by step how to create these beautiful villages. I want to talk to you about a couple of things first, otherwise I would have just sent you her link because I know that you are all at home. And if you don't have the exact supplies she's using, I'm going to give you some substitutes. So what she uses in the video are oil pastels, watercolors, and a black Sharpie marker. So those may not be art supplies that you have at home, and that's totally okay. If you do not have watercolors, here are two alternatives you can use. You can ask your parent if you have any food coloring. If you have food coloring, you can add a few drops of food coloring to some water, and that will work just like watercolor paint. You can also mix those colors to make new colors, sticking with your primary colors. We talked about this last year. So that's one option. The other option is to use Crayola markers, and then you can brush over them with plain water, and it will give the effect of watercolor because it smears the marker because it's water soluble. Oil pastels. So oil pastels have oil in them, and so everybody knows oil resists water. Well, so does wax. So if you don't have oil pastels, you can use just your brightly colored crayons. The wax in the crayons actually resist the water too. You just need to make sure you are pressing down pretty hard so that you get plenty of wax on your paper. If you're a really soft if you color very softly, let me say it that way, then you're gonna need to go over it several times to make sure you get enough wax to resist your paint, whether it be food coloring or watercolor paint. Now, if you don't have a Sharpie or a black permanent marker, no worries. Draw your village in pencil, then you'll color the pieces that you want with your crayon or oil pastel, and then you're gonna paint it. Okay, after it is completely dry, you can trace over those pencil lines with a black Crayola marker or with a black felt tip pen or just a black ballpoint pen. Anything that's going to define that and make it really stand out and show up will work. You do not want to use a black felt tip pen or a black Crayola marker before you paint or get your paper wet, because those are water soluble and they will smear and ruin your beautiful artwork. So that's just something to think about. If you're running low on paper, you don't have white paper, it's too thin. Sometimes if you use really thin copy paper, it will tear when you try to put water on it. So if you are using regular copy paper, which most people probably are, I would just caution you to not go paint over the same spot a lot of times, because you can actually paint a hole in your paper and you don't want to do that. But if you don't have any unlined white paper at all, then maybe try using the inside of a cereal box or a pizza box. Definitely go through and look at things in your house that would normally be trash and see how you could recycle them to be a surface for your art. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is you're going to follow along with the video. I would recommend you start with a pencil first. Cassie is an excellent art teacher. She lives in Tennessee. I steal so many ideas from her, and her videos are just so stellar that I just decided y'all could watch hers instead. Here we go.
I'm excited to introduce you to the contemporary folk abstract artist, Carla Gerard. Let's start with the word contemporary. That means she's an artist who's still alive and creating today. Abstract means that her style doesn't look completely realistic like a photograph, but you can still recognize what it is, like this, buildings and a landscape. Folk artists are artists who are usually trained on their own, meaning they taught themselves how to become the artists that they are. We are going to focus on these incredible buildings that Carla has throughout many of her paintings. They are going to serve as our inspiration for our own drawings of buildings that we will later on add color to and paint. So take a close look at these beauties. Check out how some of them are two-dimensional, meaning they appear flat, and three-dimensional. We are going to be able to create both. Here's an example of what we are heading for in this art project. So let's get started. When you start on your drawing, you'll need to start with a triangle shape. This will be the top of your building. After that, begin with a square. The square goes right underneath. Piece of cake. You can add doors and windows. You recognize this. This is how we've been making houses since we were itty bitty. This is considered two-dimensional, meaning this house has height and width. Let's talk about how to take a building to the third dimension. Try starting with a triangle, create a square. You guessed it, we're doing the exact same thing, but wait. Try adding a diagonal line at the top and then the middle. That diagonal line in the middle should be a little bit longer. The bottom one should be the same length. Now let's decorate. Now, I'm not gonna kid you. Drawing a house in a three-dimensional style takes practice. You might want to draw with a pencil first. You might have to try and try again, but just keep trying on the same piece of paper. Let me show you. Triangle, square or rectangle, starting at the top, a diagonal line going back. This one's a little longer. Connect with the diagonal. Come down and go back. All right, add some decorations. It's really that simple. This is considered a three-dimensional house because the house has height, width, and I have created the optical illusion of depth. Your goal today is to fill your paper full of houses. Some can be two-dimensional, others can be three-dimensional. The choice is yours. Triangle. And now let's talk about how to make a house going in the opposite direction. It's the same thing, just have those lines heading in the opposite direction. This will make it so you have variety in your drawings. Make some of your houses large, make some of them small. Take your time and really think of ways to make each house unique. All right, you can even try squeezing in some itty bitty houses into those smaller spaces. So think about how you can create your houses. You can draw them with a pencil first and trace with a Sharpie, or you can do what I do and just go for it. If you draw something you're not happy with, think of it as a beautiful oops and just keep going. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just add a ton of houses to my paper in lightning speed. Remember, your goal is for variety, and your goal is to fill your whole piece of paper. Just keep practicing. Your houses don't have to be perfect. They just have to be your best. And the only way you're going to achieve your best is to just keep trying. Even think of some strange and unusual houses that you can make, like this one. What in the world am I even doing? I have no idea, but I know I'm having fun while I'm doing it. Okay, my paper is nearly complete. Your goal is to fill your paper full of houses. You can see I have an idea sheet right beside me to give me ideas for patterns and shapes for my houses. You'll have idea
You won't
sheets
have an
too,
idea
just in
sheet,
case you
but
start
you
to run out
can
of
pause the
ideas
video
for
and look at her
patterns and
ideas.
designs. Once all of your houses are complete and your paper is full of houses, let's talk about how we can start to add a little bit of color. When your houses are complete, you'll be adding color, and when you do, you'll be using oil pastels.
Or
Your
crayon.
goal is not to fill in all the houses, but just some of them. Let me show you. So here I am using my oil pastels, and what I try to do is this. I would pick one color, and then I would try to color about 6 or 7 things with that one color. Not all in one place. I would try to spread that color out a little bit, and here's why. When a person looks at your work of art, their eye usually travels from color to color. If you put all of the color in one spot, well, then when somebody looks at your masterpiece, they'll only look in one spot. However, if you spread colors throughout, thinking of your composition or your placement of things, it'll make it so people look at all parts of your drawing. So consider that when you're coloring, just like I was. I colored at least 8 to 10 things, making sure to pick different places on my paper before switching to a different color. Now, once all of your coloring is complete, and you don't have to color everything, but when you have a good amount of your artwork filled in, let's talk about how we can use watercolor paint. So right now we're using oil pastels, and oil and water do not mix. So what we are about to have is something called a resist. When we add the watercolor, magic will happen. That oil will push the watercolor off and make it so your beautiful designs shine through. Check it out. I'm painting right on top of my oil pastels, and because oil and water don't mix or they resist, then suddenly you can see my design. You could paint, you could splatter paint. The choice is yours. Just make sure you're doing your best. If you mix your colors too much, your colors are going to start to become muddy. So what you'll want to do is keep your colors in certain sections. I have turquoise at the top, magenta on the right, purple in the middle. I'm not overlapping the colors, trying to keep them separate with a couple of fun splatters in between. There you have it, piece of cake. I can't wait to see the beautiful houses, the lovely patterns, the incredible way that you color your masterpieces and paint them. Let's get started.
All right, guys, so there you have it. You can pause it as many times as you want to. When you are finished and your work is dry, or even before it's dry if you want to, you take a picture of it. I would like for you to try to post it to Artsonia like I showed in the video last week. And here's the link, okay? And then here is the access code that you'll need, and you'll submit it under the project Colorful Villages. All right, so submit it under Colorful Villages. This is the access code if you want to jot it down really quickly. And then I will be able to approve it and leave you comments there, and it'll also go in your portfolio, so it's saved there, as well as if your parent gives permission, it's able to be displayed in our school gallery, which is really cool. So I can't wait to see what you come up with, and you guys are awesome. I miss you so much. I'll see you soon.